Ancient warfare on the modern battlefield. It's happening today. We're seeing rare cases where ancient weapons are being utilized on the modern battlefield. A landscape full of high-end technology being revisited by ancient technology. And boy, am I excited. Now you may be wondering, hey admin, what does this have to do with me? Well, you never know when you're going to have to build a trebuchet, or use a flaming arrow, or bring a Scottish longsword to a gunfight. And these cases go over just that. Of course, one of my favorites would be Mad Jack Churchill. Now, Mad Jack Churchill was a British officer during World War II, and he was infamous for carrying bagpipes, a Scottish longsword, and some archery equipment into World War II. A land full of MG42s, MP40s, Bren guns, and just not the right spot for it. But the man's a vibe. During one such raid, he would play with his bagpipes the March of the Cameron Men. Could you imagine being a German and you just hear some bagpipes ripping off in the distance? I mean, when I listen to bagpipes, they get me pretty jazzed. I'm not gonna lie. You play some bagpipes, I'll march into battle. I will march against the traffic cops if you give me some bagpipe. If you play the bagpipes, I will fight. And damn it, I will win. Now, of course, the one reason I'm bringing Mad Jack Churchill up is that he was infamous for getting a longbow kill, one of the last recorded probably in history, which, of course, if you know me or if you know this channel, it gets my goat going. I am a big fan of the English longbow, and it's even more perfect that a British officer was wielding a longbow to get this kill. Now, sadly, from what I was reading, it said that Mad Jack Churchill's bows were crushed by a lorry, so I worry that this is just actually a tall tale, and didn't get that longbow kill, but in my heart, he did. Now, this is just a quick World War II example. Of course, we have some even more relevant ones that we're going to get to, such as the India-China border clashes. Now, this is an interesting little topic because when it comes to India and China, I'm gonna be honest, I usually don't care. I don't care about their history. It's just like, it's like once you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, probably the most Eastern thing of the history that I care about is probably like Genghis Khan and like Japanese history with the shoguns. When it comes to India and China, it's like, I'm out. When I was in high school, I played high school foosball, American football, baby. So during the off season, we would practice, but we weren't wearing football pads. We would use like these training pads that you would hold up and you could hit and you impact stuff with. And one day before practice, I organized the lads into a fighting formation, doing shield walls and the such. We got in trouble, but it was well worth it. So there is a masculine urge to get into formation warfare and beat your fellow man. And damn it, the Chinese and the Indians are living out my masculine fantasy. It's pretty freaking sick. There's an interesting thing that happened in 2020 and 2021, which would be the Galwan Valley clash. Now, what makes this interesting is that they were coming to blows using hand-to-hand combat. They used, from what I read, iron rods, clubs, and batons, also wrapped with barbed wire, clubs embedded with nails, and then they were also using stones. Now, I need you to realize how brutal this is. It's almost like an Anchorman sketch. Rajit, you killed a man with a trident. You may want to lay low for a bit.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
In the Galwan Valley clash, up to 600 Chinese and Indians would end up clashing it out, engaging in stone throwing, bludgeoning, hitting each other with these weapons, and men would die. Hey, these dudes actually killed each other. I think the Indians reported that they had like 20-some deaths from casualties, and then the Chinese didn't share their numbers. I think they There was even reports of the Chinese like loosening boulders and rolling them down at the Indians in some instances, and a lot of this happened apparently when it was pretty dark, so that's gotta be pretty scary. Being on a cliffside or being on a big old mountain with sheer drop-offs, doing hand-to-hand combat, using bats or clubs embedded with spikes, that's pretty gnarly. It takes a lot of gumption. You have to be really committed to want to bludgeon someone to death. I wish there was more swords involved, and I really wish there was more bows involved, but there are some more bows in this episode coming up, thanks to the Israelis. And you got I give them credit. It's kind of cool. They're like both like, hey, no guns me, no guns you. We're gonna bludgeon each other to death. That's kind of a sick vibe. It sounds like a good time. Now, before we go any further, I need to recuperate some money on my financial decisions that I've made in my life. That's why I have to give a big thank you to this video sponsor, World of Warships. Do you want to engage in combat on the high seas? Of course you do. Who doesn't? Well, in World of Warships, you can control massive fleets and do just that. And World of Warships also has a stellar offer for you. By using code DDAY80th, you'll get the following. You can get a taste of naval operations during Normandy, June 6, 1944, and relive some of the harrowing events that took place during that month. You can also take combat to the Pacific Theater and show American Navy power dominating both theaters. only available for a limited time. You can register to play through the link in the description or in the pinned comment down below. Weather effects make each battle unique and change the tactics of the battle, with each ship being hyper accurate to the real thing, and each battle will make you feel like you are there. The best part is engaging in American naval warfare. After World War II, the American Navy would go on to be the dominant naval power in the world, and you get to recreate part of that in World of Warships. World of Warships is also available on consoles, so go ahead and use the link in the description in the pinned comment down below and take your combat to the high seas in World of Warships. Big thank you for sponsoring this video. Now, the Galwan Valley Clash is just one example of ancient warfare creeping on the modern battlefield. Now, we still have remnants of it, right? We have bayonet charges, soldiers still carry blades. There's still that ancient, style vibe when bullets run dry and soldiers still need to make work happen. Of course, say a soldier's got into hand-to-hand combat, they could pick up a rock and bludgeon someone to death. But usually the preferred method is guns and explosives and ventilating people from a distance. It's rare a lot of times when you start seeing bayonet charges on the modern battlefield, especially when you have young Zoomers flying around FPV drones. Now, the IDF did something recently which got my goat. Now, this isn't going to be like completely politically neutral. I'm not trying to say, hey, yeah, either side. What I am very fascinated in is that they made a trebuchet and they were using it on the Lebanese border. Now, if you're totally unaware of what a trebuchet is, you're missing out because trebuchets are sick. And I want to make a trebuchet episode. It's going to happen. Hold me to it. It's going to happen. I swear to God. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about it. So a trebuchet is essentially a piece of artillery from the ancient world. They first showed up in the 4th century BC in China, and that was the traction method, at least what the internet says. Now, the traction method of the trebuchet uses manpower to pull it and launch a projectile. Now, the trebuchet, as we know from more medieval examples, is going to be the gravity method, where it has a counterweight. The counterweight gets released, it drops, and then it sends that long arm with the sling and hurls a projectile to great distances. It's probably the most efficient way, and that's exactly what the IDF guys did. Now, from what I was reading, I think it was like some reservist type unit of the IDF along the Lebanese border, and they were launching a flaming projectile across to clear out the shrubbery. I would assume, like, hey, if there's shrubbery where guys can hide in, a very effective way to clear it out be using fire. With that trebuchet, what they can do, of course, launch over projectiles, but we really have to think about this for a second because it's on like a trailer, and I was wondering if like these guys were kind of sitting around like, hey, maybe ordnance is scarce, or maybe they don't want to like be launching certain types of rounds over there, and they're all maybe sitting around like, hey, we're kind of bored, we have to clear out the shrubbery, how do we do it? And then they're maybe thinking like, hey, we have the internet, we can build the trebuchet. Chances are they're sitting around, pull up an internet connection, learn how to build a trebuchet, put it together with the available supplies on hand, and then they could start hurling fireball projectiles over a wall at whatever shrubbery they need to take care of. I'll give it to them. It made my day. It made me really happy. Not only were they doing that, but they're also using flaming arrows, and I'm a big fan of archery, so this also made me excited. I'm not sure how effective that was, but it seemed to be doing the job. Maybe they're giving it a shot. We didn't get to see the impacts on the other side of the wall. It's kind of like a fun callback. It makes me think of like the Gladiator, the opening scene where they're firing all the catapults, the ballistas, and the archers are shooting flaming arrows. It would be kind of sick to see that again, IRL, being used in an angry fashion. All right, I know. This is another interesting use case, right? Archery creeping into the modern battlefield. I think of like Rambo 2, I believe it is, where he's running around Vietnam with a compound bow smoking the Viet Man. It's interesting to see it actually creep into the modern landscape. Who knows when maybe archery equipment's been used actually in a conflict in recent years besides Mad Jack Churchill, allegedly. But this does open up interesting questions, right? In the absence of certain ordnance, what can you get done with the tools that you have on hand? Now, this popped up onto my feed thanks to an Instagram account called Northern Provisions. They also shared a trebuchet used by Syrian rebels that was used even long before this. So it's weird to see them popping up. It's rather fitting, though, that the Middle East is bringing back trebuchets. It seems rather on brand with their activities. Now, the trebuchet, I think what I was reading, one of the last known examples of it being used was by Hernan Cortez when they were sieging the Aztecs. Now, the problem with that trebuchet is, from what I was reading, is they got one shot off, it went straight up into the air, and then it destroyed their own trebuchet. So it's kind of like, dang, man. Now, I'm sure like one of the conquistadors was like, hey, Hernan, we're low on gunpowder for the cannons. What if we had the locals help us build the trebuchet? and they built it, and then it sucked. And they're like, dude, what are you thinking? We haven't built one of these in forever. I will give it to the IDF guys, though, because I feel like the Trebuchet, if you have zero experience, going 0 to 100 with the Trebuchet takes a bit of know-how. I was messing around with a Trebuchet simulator, and I was thinking, man, this is actually kind of tricky to get like the arm length, the fulcrum, the counterbalance. Now, there's a lot of talk when you see a Trebuchet in Hollywood and movies of these being like these heavy-duty medieval artillery pieces where they could ground a castle into dust. After doing like longbow and crossbow stuff, where the mythology around that was that those were like death sabers that could kill a knight with just one arrow, and we quickly debunked that, just shooting like mid-tier armor. I would assume like the Trebuchet was like, yeah, it's gonna do some damage, but it's gonna need a lot of rounds to do a lot of damage with a lot of time. It doesn't feel like a very heavy-duty explosive weapon. That's why cannons existed and why the Trebuchet got phased out. It's how technology works, right? New technology comes along and it phases out the old technology. It's our technological arms race. It's why everything has advanced so quickly within the last 150 years. We went from the Civil War with muskets to jet fighters within 100 years. Things move pretty quick, especially with the advent of gunpowder. So to see a Trebuchet in the modern battlefield being used by the IDF, it's kind of a fun callback to see them being used, especially if they're using flaming rounds. I think my only critique about the IDF Trebuchet is that they did not have more Trebuchets.
I want more.
If there's anything I would have loved to see, would have been a massive amount, say 5, 10, 20 Trebuchets launching off massive fireballs into the distance. Now, I'm sure there's people on the internet that thought the IDF Trebuchet was just some AI, maybe propaganda of some kind. I don't know why. It seems kind of weird. I could totally see a bunch of soldiers on the battlefield getting bored if they have time. And they're like, you know what? We have to clear out some shrubbery. It's Trebuchet time. Let's build it. Now, to me, of course, I want to make this video and talk about it because trebuchets are sick, flaming arrows are dope, beating your fellow man to death in a border dispute is very fun, it sounds like. They had to have had fun, dude. Those Indians and those Chinese guys, when they were like lined up in formation trying to hit each other, you can't tell me they were having a good time until they saw like one of their buddies get killed and they're like, ooh, this is real. This is really happening. All of this stuff I find interesting, right? They're conducting violence within a certain set of rules and they're bringing back old methods to do so. They're using tools that they have on hand and they're getting the job done. Gentlemen, this was a quick look into the ancient world revisiting the modern battlefield. And of course, I have nothing else for you. I will catch you on the flip.